Okay, so today we're going to have a look at adding custom parts to standard parts. So I've got the parts that I want to add. So these are in my D drive, like my backup drive. Here I've got a folder. I've got hose with some hoses in, miscellaneous for lots of random parts, and then we've got some timber. So we're gonna add these different ways. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna copy those. So what we need to do is go and just check what database and check where our options are. So if we go down to our solid edge, whatever version we've got, using the Windows button, we've got our configuration wizard and administrator. These are two tools that we're going to use. So if we first go into the administrator, this is going to come up and we're going to see our options on here. If we haven't got the administrator, we need to install that first. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my database manager, and this is going to tell me what database we've got. So on here, I've got three databases. I've got the one that comes with 2020. I've got my legacy standard parts, so these are the ones that have got all the parts from previous versions of Solid Edge, and I've got one which I'll specifically use for PNID. So here I can decide which one I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my legacy standard parts and click on working. That's then going to bring that. So this is local. If you're on an external one, this will ask you for the login to that, which is normally SP user and SP user for the login to the external database if it's been set up by us. If it hasn't been set up by us, you'll have to refer to your IT and find out what the password is on that, but that should be automatically set for you. So if we're going to add that to our, so it may be whatever your company name is, standard parts, and then we're going to click OK. That's then going to bring up the standard parts for there. So here we've got lots of different things, and now what we're going to do, we're going to add some different items into there. What I'm going to do first is check where the parts need to be. So I've already copied those, so they're already in the memory. So next, I want to use the Windows button again to bring this option up. And I want to go to my Solid Edge 2020 and go to the configuration wizard. So this is going to tell us where those are. So currently the standard parts location is here, so I'm going to copy those into that same location. So I've got Solid Edge piping design standard parts, so I'm going to put those into there. So I'm going to go back and find that location. So Solid Edge piping design, standard parts, and I'm just going to create a new folder in there called custom parts. And now when we go into there, I can paste those three folders that we had before. So we always need to be having the parts that we're going to add within our normal standard parts location. That's the best way of doing it. So we're going to go back to our standard parts tool. So here we can now use this little button, add parts. And we go to here, we've got lots of different ones. So if we want to add any of the standard parts that are already in there, we can go to our directory. We've got two options, one for the machinery and one for the piping database on here. And here we've got different options. So add user part files, existing multiple parts, or existing single part files. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this top option, use parts, and then we're going to go next. We've got different options on here. So add family parts master, add from Excel. So we're going to add this with manual data entry on this one. And then we're going to click the path that we're going to have a look at. So we're going to go to our custom folder. So if we do our path and go to our C, find, so this one was going to be piping design in mine, standard parts, custom parts. I'm actually probably going to do these separately, so I'm going to click on hose. Actually, I'm going to do miscellaneous first, because miscellaneous we're not going to add any characteristics to. So now we've got all these parts, we've got all the parts that we're going to use. This is all random, we've got bars, circular horizontal, equal angle, all sorts of different parts that I've managed to grab from different data sets that I've got. So then we're going to go next on there, so it's going to look at all these parts. The more parts we do, the more we're going to have. So in this video we're only looking at common standard parts. We'll have a look what we do with piping part, fastener system and frame section in video 2. So once we've done that, we're going to go next. And now we're going to have a look where we're going to create these. So this option on here is going to do add new category. So I'm going to call these 1PLM miscellaneous. That is then going to be the folder, and then enter on there. And now what we need to do, so here we've got our rename and our delete of our folders if we need to. And now we need to decide any characteristics or any custom properties that we want. So add characteristic is going to add a characteristic to here. So we can go in there F2 and just rename that whatever we want on there. So I'm just going to put miscellaneous in that one as well. and then we're going to put the unit length, what we can do on there. So we can do any kind of different option on there, but for this I'm just going to change that to text. So this is, so let's just do designation text, that'll be fine. We're not going to put any specification or any standard on there because they aren't any of those. If they were, we can make sure they go so they appear with that appropriate specification in there. So next it's going to give us all these options. I don't want to be able to filter these, so I'm just going to put 0 in these, and I'm just going to copy and paste that into all of the different options that we've got available on there. That's all those items. So we're going to click next on there. So here, invalid extension in the file name, please change the extension to match the extension of the original file name. So that, so we can't bring assemblies in, so if we just go back and back again, back and back again, we can then remove any of these. So any of these items without that aren't parts, we can go in and remove those. So I'm just going to click remove on that one, and then we've got that one as well. That is the other issue on there. So standard parts is just for parts. So if you do want something that's going to be a standard parts, if you refer to there's another video available showing how you can bring an assembly into a part. So notice if you do go and make this change, any settings that we've just done in the next section will get remembered. So we've got common standard part, we're going to our 1PLM, we've got our designation, and then just need to go and just add these options back in there. And then next, so we're going to decide what category they're going to be. So the category is 1PLM miscellaneous. So we'll leave that as it is, and then we'll go next, and that's then going to install those parts. Okay, so now all those are on, we can finish, and that's then going to register those parts with the database. So those are now available. So you find that when you go to standard parts in Solid Edge, you can then click F5, that will update the database, and you'll then be able to use any of those parts available on there. So let's have a look at something a little bit more complex. So if we do that same one, we're going to go add parts. We're going to use the same option on there. Next, remember we're going to do manual data entry. We're going to add our path. This time we're going to go to the hose option. So if we do the hose one, we've got the options, just double check they're all parts. Yeah. So here we can see, just going to have a look at the different sizes, 0.25, 20 bar, air hose or water hose. Or we'll just put chemical for the other option on there. So now we've got those, we're going to click next. So we're going to do a common standard part. We're going to look at our categories. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to click on the 1PLM miscellaneous. So we can go in there if we need to. So or we can create a new category. So if we just click off, we can decide where that wants to go. So by selecting down the bottom, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to call this 1PLM parts, and then I'm just going to click off and reselect that again. I'm going to create another category under there, and I'm going to call this hoses. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create the actually I'm just going to click on that. Let's just remove that one, click back on that one, create a new one, and here I'll create timber ready for when we add the timber on there. So now we're going to add the characteristics that we need for these. So for hoses, we're going to go and add the characteristics. So when we're in here, we can start typing, and it should pick up the kind of options we want. So if I start doing inside, that's going to give us inside diameter. So we can put that length, millimeter or inches. So we've got the different options. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to change this to inches on there. We can just change those to the nearest the nearest type on there. What I'm actually going to do is probably change that so that doesn't give us that option as length. What I'm going to do, we can just change that. So if we want to use both of those at the same time, we can just do that as text. We need to make sure that we put the same options in there. So next, I want to create another one. So this characteristic, there's lots of different options, but if you just start searching for the option that you want, so if I start searching for pressure, it's going to either give us those, but I know this is called nominal pressure. So if I go and find nominal pressure as pressure, I can then choose this as bar as the option. And then we need a third one for the type of fluid we're gonna use on there. You can see there's lots of different choices on here, so it's just trying to find something that's going to be appropriate to what you want. So I'm just going to click this on group, and that's just going to be a text option on there. So we're going to be specification 1 PLM. I'm just going to call this hoses. So make sure that we're going into hoses, and then we're going to go next on there. We've got our different items now, so this can actually be resized to make this a little bit easier. So make sure that we've got our kind of part names on here, and now it's just a matter of going in and putting in all the properties that we need on this part. So on this group, I'm just going to do air in those. I'm going to copy this down to everywhere where there's an air hose. Okay, that looks like, I'm going to call that water, and then I'm going to call the other one chemical. So we've got the different options. Let's just copy the water ones down. Okay, and then we're going to click next. Any errors are going to come up, so if there's any errors, any assemblies in there, we'll go back to that one. And then next, and then those parts are then going to be available. Okay, and then click finish. And that's just going to register those so that they can now be used. Okay, so then I always like to go, once we've done that, we're going to do update database. I'm just going to click on the items that we've just done. So I'm just going to update the selected ones. Just going to make sure that those are definitely done. That was done at the end, but depending on if you get disturbed or something goes wrong, it's always nice just to go and just double check that those are all done. So now when we close out of that, if we go into our solid edge, so if we go to our insert component, go to our little parts library icon, that should take us to the standard parts. And here, because that's our current option, we've got our parts. So if you have a look at the hoses, here we've got our choices. So I can go to my pressure, so once I do 10, that's going to shrink those down. Chemical, and then I can go and choose the size on there. And if I use this little icon, I can go and it will tell me what that version is. So if I want to just go for a list, or if I go on there, I can then choose those different options on there. So a little bit of time setting up, but we've got a usable standard part option on there, which is all categorized up so we can easily find the right version that we want on there. Okay, any questions? Please send me an email to chris.morgan@1plm.com and I will answer those questions for you. Thank you.